Hello, viewers. My name is Nikki. I am the host of Survive, and I am really excited to be here with the Survive Season 1 cast. We're going to do a little reunion show. But before we get to that, I want to give a big shout out to the Live Reality Games podcast for letting us take over and do our own reunion show on their platform. So we're big fans. I'm a big fan, and I hope you all get to have some good tea spilt from these contestants. We'll get into all the juicy details. We have some people with some drinks in their hands. So we are ready to divulge some of the information and get to it. All right. So let's get into it. I want to first start off by getting into some of your favorite moments of Survive. So who wants to tell their favorite moment in the game? Like big or small?
Okay, I'll go right off. One of my favorite moments for me was that, like, walking up and seeing that A-frame and realizing, like, oh man, this is like about to be a real ass game, and that was just like, and it set it into motion, and it just kept living up to that like level of like wow. So that was mine for sure.
Yeah, those A-frames. I got to tell you, I had nightmares before the game started. I tried to do the A-frame myself, and I like didn't run and get a running start. I just like stood and did it. And I didn't make it up. I was like at the top, and I was like, I just don't think I can do it. And so I ended up coming down. And so I just was dreaming about this moment, and I'm like, was so scared. But you all did amazing and crushed it. But yeah, those A-frames. Hey, Barry.
Hi, everyone. Hey, Barry. See all of you.
We were just talking about favorite moments, and Travis mentioned walking up to the A-frame challenge at Keith's and just seeing like the flags and the A-frames and just knowing how serious this was going to be after that.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I was going to mention the flags too. Like just that being like around it, I was like, oh, wow, this is like, here we go. And then the prize, like the prize. There was like, did anyone else? I didn't know there was going to be a prize until, we got there. So that was amazing. And then another moment that when I was thinking back on it, one thing that stood out to me is the first conversation that I ever had about game was with Norman. And it was when we just kind of quickly like looked at each other and we're like, you tell me if you see my name, I'll tell you if I hear yours. And that was like the first thing we did. And that was the first conversation I had. And I was like, oh crap, I just had a real Survivor conversation with someone. This is real.
Yeah, crazy. I'd say for me, like the first night of like realizing, wow, like we're actually sleeping outside, like no pillow, no blanket, nothing, no idea what time it was. But as like scary as it was like super fun. And like realized, oh, wow, we're like really playing this game, and it just made it feel super real. And yeah, it was really cool.
Awesome. Yeah. Anyone else with a favorite moment?
I mean, there's just so many. It's hard to choose. I mean, for me personally, I think it's competing with, all the first four pre-jury, and doing that battle back, which was incredible, and I got to do so much and prove so much to myself. So that was the best part for me personally.
Yeah, CJ, that moment was like I don't know that anyone will really like understand that moment that wasn't there, to be honest with you. It was like it was nighttime, like we had no idea what was going on that whole day. Then all of a sudden we're told that the challenge is going to be that night. And we walk up to the challenge, we see a massive bonfire rolling and then 4 stumps and a pole. We're like, wow. Okay, it's getting real. And then the time just kept going by. Like we had no idea what time it was. There was a point like when it was down to me and you, like I could see the sun getting ready to come up behind the trees. I was like, oh my goodness. Unbelievable.
We went so long. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think something like that in a battle back is what you hope to see. We came in wanting it to last a long time.
Yeah.
And we wanted the impact of like that big bonfire and the torches around in a circle to just be impactful. So I think in future seasons, we're going to see something sort of like that. Whether or not it's the same challenge, I guess you'll have to find out if you make it there.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Hint for future season.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, they're gonna have to try and beat that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
8 hours.
Tough.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tough gameplay that they'll have to beat. I'm just saying.
Oh,
Yeah.
for
Oh, yeah.
sure.
That was, I mean,
8
was
hours
awesome.
is insane. I like.
yeah, right. When we found that out at Tribal after,
Yeah.
By the way,
yeah, crazy.
Right. Okay, so let's get into. So after the battle back, Kira, you get in the game. You're faced with going back to you get a tribe swap, and you're faced with going back to your original tribe who just voted you out, and then there's new people there as well. And you go to rocks for your original tribe who vote you out, and then you get the bad rock.
for sure. Like, I don't know. It was honestly the whole time I really had no idea what I was doing. Like, not that I didn't know what I was doing, but like I hadn't committed to anything. I was talking to both sides of the tribe, and I was like trying to get as much information as I could, and I was trying to see, you know, there was information that I had known, and then there was information that I didn't know, and I was trying to really weigh out my options. And so like it's so funny that like there's a part in that last tribal where they're like, oh my gosh, you know, because I think I said something like I'm a really bad liar, so I told half truths about like the stump thing. And I think Tyler even said, oh, well, you fooled me. And I was like, because I was fooling myself. I was completely genuine when I was talking to you guys. I was like, yep, I'm going to go with you. And then I would turn around to Zach and Justin, and I'd be like, yeah, no, I'm going with you guys. Like, you guys ready to go to rocks? And then, you know, I think it really came down to the point, and I know Angela and I had talked about this, is so Zach and Justin had unprovoked had told me about the idol and who had it on the other tribe, and I already knew from CJ. We had a long time to talk about game, and he had mentioned to me that Angela found the idol within like the first few moments of the game. So, and there was a point there where me and her were talking, and I was like, hey, did you find the idol at all? Like, has anyone found the idol? Like, you guys, you knew all about the rewards and all this stuff, and wouldn't budge. And I understand why not, but I think if Ange had like told me about her idol, I 100% would have swapped and gone with the other tribe, because I would have felt like, okay, now that bonds me and her together, and I would feel more safe going with them at the bottom of what would have been 7 versus, and I think I even said to Zach at one point from Pistecki when I was talking to him, so that I just feel really uncomfortable because I had thought that he knew about Angela's idol. So I was even pressing him a little bit. I didn't think that Ty knew about it, but I was pretty sure that Zach knew. And I was like, how can I feel more comfortable, wink, wink, and no cigar? But he didn't know. So, you know, that's how it crumbles.
So, Angela, did you have an idea that maybe your idol was told, like CJ told her about your idol? What was going through your head?
You know what? I never even thought about the fact that they were together until it feels like days, but it was hours later. And I realized, I wonder if she knew that I had an idol, and I wonder if she told anybody else. And I remember that moment, Kara, where you were looking at me saying, did anyone find an idol? And I was this close to telling you. And we talked about it afterwards. And basically, if I had told her, she would have trusted me and voted with me. Had she had voted with me, I would have trusted her and told her afterwards. And we had just met, and there just wasn't enough time to have built that trust. I mean, we were together for maybe an hour before that started happening. So it was a difficult moment for each of us, and ultimately ended up us going to rocks.
We were both playing chicken and I lost.
So there were two other people in this vote that are super important. So Zach and Zach.
Yo,
They went to
hey girl, right on
Zach.
time.
So Zach, we're talking about the round where people went to rocks for you. Kira just got back in the game. So yeah, I'm opening up to both the Zachs to talk about that vote.
I mean, for me, once that switch happened, seeing Nick, Barry, and Doodles just like scurry on over to the other tribe and leave me completely solo, I was like, no! What am I gonna do? And fortunately, I had Justin, who later conferred with me, saying that after the tug of war challenge, he would have gone whatever way that I wanted to go, no matter what. Like for him, that was just like such like a trust building moment that I would be willing to like scream at the other tribe and like to pull them into the ground and ruin Angela's hands and Travis's hamstring. Sorry, baby. And and then when Kira came back, I was like, okay, well maybe this isn't that bad, because Kira literally right before we voted her out came up to me and Justin and was like, hey, let's do this thing. And I'm like, oh girl, I can't save you, but I totally would in a different world. And so when she came back, I'm like, okay, well, what she's going to need is like pure honesty. And Kira straight up asked us in the middle of camp with Ty, Angela, and Zach, like, what happened? And I threw it all out there for them. I didn't hold anything back. I gave like some half truths and like pushed a lot of the blame on
Roger.
You gross, don't call him Roger. Yeah, and then I threw Nick under the bus a lot too. But that's because if I did that, they would like put all of this power onto Nick, who I knew had an idol and would be able to save it. And then should we all make it past like this rock situation, then they would go after Nick. It would be really easy to tell Nick to play his idol, and then we'd still be in the advantage. The only thing I wish I had really worked harder on was Angela. I don't think I've ever manipulated somebody as so hard as I manipulated Angela. I was throwing out all of the stops because I had the most information in the game at the time other than Kira. And that fake tribal that Pistaki went to, it was so revealing to me. Angela was sitting in front, Norman was sitting in front, Lydia was sitting in front, and the boys were all in back. And I was watching them point to who they were voting out. And all of them were pointing to Angela. And that was the first conversation I had with her. I'm like, look, girl, yeah, you are not in their long-term plans. I don't have plans. We can have plans together. And she just wouldn't budge. And thinking about it later after the game, when you stay up all night thinking about the what ifs, I should have made that last tribal a live tribal and just scared the crap out of you guys, because that would have been my only option. But Angela, should you have lived with us, me, you, Kira, Justin, and probably Barry. Sorry, Nick, you're just so buff and strong. I probably we could have been final five, and those boys would have taken you, and they did it. So
you were this close. Like, you were working me so hard, and I was so close, and I ended up getting to the point that I was like, he's lying to me. They wouldn't vote me out. They wouldn't do that to me. And just decided, you're lying to me and you're stressing me out.
She's literally getting hives. Like
you did say that.
I apologized too, because I recognized her, and that's why I stopped, because I felt like if I keep pushing her, she's probably just gonna think that. But now that the game's over, I'm kind of wishing I pushed even harder.
And I wish I believed you.
Yeah, but it is what it is. Next time we'll be in a power alliance, okay?
There was nothing like sitting at tribal, like after we had all stopped holding hands because it had tied up, and we immediately like dropped each other's hands. We're like, well, I just felt Zach like turning past me, looking at Ange. Like I felt the heat. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And at that moment, even looking back at it, I was like, I should have just leaned over to Angela when Ty got up to go vote and told her, "Girl, I know about your idol. It's either now or never." And I should have so badly said that, but I was feeling so much for Angela. Like, I'm making this poor girl cry. Zach's already pressing her enough. She might flip. But let live.
I was so torn because, I had my alliance with my Pasteki tribe already. And like Zach, not Pasteki Zach, Half Moon Zach. From the moment I saw you, I was like, I want to work with this guy so bad. I was so excited to meet you when we did the swap. And I was so upset about the way that was all working out. And Kira was like so excited to see you because there was another girl back in the game. So it was just like a really tough moment. Like, do I go to rocks with my old Pasteki tribe, or do I take this moment and just swap now?
Zach H, you're hearing a lot of the behind the scenes that I'm not sure if you knew before. So, how was your feelings?
Yeah, it was such a crazy dynamic on the swap, and from my perspective, I was actually really happy to see Kira come back in the game. As Zach was, but for totally different reasons. Like, Kira comes back in the game. I see how the tribe swap plays out. It's myself, Ty, and Angela from the Pasteki 6, which is like the two best people that I thought I could have been tribe swapped with. Like, I felt really good about my connection with Ty, really good about my connection with Angela. I was like, this is so solid. Neither of them are going to flip on me. And we just came out of a vote where Ty had just lied to me. Like, my vote for Angela at the tribal that Half Moon got to watch, my vote for Angela was a last second. Like, literally, I found out 30 seconds before I voted for Angela that I was voting for her. So Ty had just lied to me. So I'm thinking it was a really good situation for me. And with Kira, it was like she had just been voted out by these two Half Mooners. If anything happens, it's going to be a 4-2 for us. Like, Kira's going to flip for sure. And why would she not? Like, it was just such an ideal situation. She would have gotten to merge, and she would have been there instead of Justin, probably. So, like, who knows what would have happened from there. But to be totally honest, and Zach, you actually almost, like, you mentioned it on the discussion after the 2 revotes. Like, when Angela came back crying, I legit thought she had flipped. I was like, you have to be kidding me. Like, are you serious? And you called it out, and I thought she was going to flip in that moment, but I'm glad she didn't. So
yeah, I worked her so hard. I wanted her to see in every single small moment that I was going to be there for her way more than you guys would. So even that moment where you like grabbed your hands and you said, really, I'm like, he doesn't even trust you. Like, and I'm so sorry, but those are the cards I had to play. Sure. Same thing with Kira. Like, I wanted to play with each and every one of you, but like, I very specifically told you about Nick's idol because I knew that would be the information that would grab you. I knew.
For sure.
It was so fun to play with such high level players because I don't think I've ever played a game that well before, and I still lost horribly. So you guys are it's a testament to how good you are. I would love to do it again. I have to get on my plane. Oh, go ahead.
I wouldn't say you lost horribly. I'd say you got the bad deal of a rock draw, and then your tribe threw the challenge against you. So that could anyone in your spot.
Yeah, well, we lost like 5 challenges before that. Honestly, I considered not trying very hard in the tug of war too, because the way it played out, Barry and I would have been probably the last 2 members of that tribe. Everybody wanted to work with us, and Nick had that level of power to where we could help him move forward with that idol. Like, I think the final 3 in that tribe would have been me, Nick, and Barry probably. Yeah.
Definitely.
And so yeah, I really considered like that whole challenge was just like, do I just keep losing and not show people how physically strong I am or what, but ego got the best of me. Anyway, I have to go back to Salt Lake City. I'm here in the airport.
Safe travels.
Say hi, San Francisco.
Safe travels.
Safe
Say hi to
travels,
David.
Nick.
I miss you guys so much. And
Miss
again, it was
you.
so
Miss
much
you.
fun playing with you guys. You are all amazing superstars. So hope to talk to you soon.
Everybody.
Zach.
Bye.
CJ, I want to bring it to you. So your vote out.
Oh God.
I gotta talk about it because before your vote out, like the day one gossips, when Lane came to us, because Lane was your camp counselor, and Lane came back and was like, CJ and Angela, they're doing so well. And I gotta say I was like pleasantly surprised, CJ, because you haven't played a game before, you were a little nervous about it, and you were in like such a good placement. And then talks about Ty. So that was really your downfall, was this plot against Ty, and then everyone just started getting so worried about you. So explain the chaos, because they kept calling you, kept saying that it was chaotic, and what was the play?
Okay, yeah. So I mean, I came in with the mindset to be the villain. I told myself that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to play the game as hard as I could and lie as much as possible. So I came in the game thinking like that. But as the game was going, I tried to tone it down just a little bit. But I mean, obviously I failed. But so originally I was going to stick with Angela and Zach, but I knew later on down the road I'd have to get rid of them at some point. But in the beginning, I was going to stick with them as our final three. But I was trying to play all angles, I think, just a little too much. And so like I had a final two with Travis, I had a final two with Zach, and a final two with Ange. There was 3 final twos, so that alone was limiting my options of people to vote out. So it was kind of making me go back on my words a little bit, because I had already had all these alliances, and then everyone wanted to target certain people, and they weren't aligning. So I was like, how do I get everyone to stay that I want to stay and get rid of someone that I'm not working with? And Ty was one of the only people that I wasn't particularly working with. And then I even thought about, I mean, like, I brought in that Final Four option with us just to have an option in my mind. But so I went to him originally for a couple of reasons. One was I was worried that him and Zach were going to be too close as a power couple later in the game, and I didn't want to have that problem. I could already see that it was going to happen. I mean, obviously, once I was gone, they became like that, So I knew that was going to be an issue, and I knew I had to break that up. And then I knew that Ange and him had a little bit of going on as well. So I was like, I don't want to risk that being an issue, say come merge. But I think a lot of it was also my insecurities. Going in as a queer male, I struggled to trust straight men particularly. And so when I had Zach, I was struggling to trust him. And I knew that if I eliminated Ty, I felt like I would have him to the end. And so I was like, Ty has to be the option. If I'm going to save Lydia and Travis, it's going to have to be Ty. But no one was biting Ty. Everyone wanted to keep him in the game. So I kind of fucked myself going after him.
Well,
but I mean, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's funny. What's really funny is you saying like me and Zach, like working together. Cause I think Zach and I were always really close, but we were always on different pages. Like earlier when he was like, I've got Ty and Angela, that's perfect switch for me. When we got swapped, I was like, oh crap, like this is the worst situation for me. So like it's pretty wild, the differences in how we saw it. But everybody saw us as really close, and then we didn't really get close until he was like about to go home.
Well, I think a lot of people were seeing you as close because I was also throwing that out there. I was pushing that really hard, so that way me and him wouldn't look like a threat, and you two would look as a pair. And then obviously I could convince people to take you out instead of him, and then blindside them later on and have him as my final two.
Right. And one thing that I asked when you were telling me all of the, like the people were targeting me, or everybody, you said everybody's saying my name or something like that. I said, like, did Norman say my name? And because I had already had that conversation with him that he wasn't going to throw my name out there and I trusted him, when you said I was like, red flag. Like I'm going to tell everyone.
I regretted that instantly. Once he specifically said his name, I knew, but I had already kind of was like, I kind of want to protect Travis and Lydia. and I had all the other final twos.
But I did too.
So I was like, what can I do here? Because if I'm going to save Travis and Lydia, I have to throw somebody out there. But I was never going to go after Norman. He was just kind of a scapegoat to use for a second.
Yeah,
but
I feel like
actually the
I was like always the scapegoat until I actually got voted out. But
yeah,
it's like funny, even like hearing you guys all talk, like my name's not even mentioned at all, and it's like, and that was kind of what I was trying to do, like just not to be a floater, like Big Brother reference, but I was like just trying to like skate through, and then again, like the paranoia got the best of me and everything. But that's so funny that you're like, oh yeah, you were just like not going to target me, and then I like effed up my.
Well, no one wanted to send you home. I think everyone wanted to keep you around, so it was easy to just.
I mean, I freaked out like the first. I thought I was going home. I thought because I said I was from Crystal Lake and I lived nearby. People were like, "Oh, who cares? This guy didn't travel far. He can go home." Like, and like so that right away got in my head, and then from there on out, I was just freaked out the whole time. Like there was no going back in my own mind at that point. So like,
I actually had a conversation with Angela because no one was dropping a name, and that was just the game for a while, was don't say a name.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to Angela about like, well, there, I guess Charles had just been booted and he came all the way from another country. So I was like, maybe we just need to like send someone who's really close by. And I personally was kind of like thinking like,
it crossed your
mind.
You
were probably the person I was gonna have the most trouble working with, and so I was like, how can I like say Norman without saying Norman? Right. And Angela shot it down right away. Wow. So I was like,
that's so okay. Thanks, Angela. Thank you. That's funny.
Yeah, poor Charles.
I know.
Yeah, that decision on Half Moon, that first vote out, I don't know, it was kind of like, so Pistaki, they had an initial group of 6, and then there was like Travis and Lydia on the bottom, but then they managed to get out of the bottom. But Half Moon didn't really have that. It was almost like, I don't know what was going on. What was happening on Half Moon?
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it kind of just felt like one big happy camping trip. Like I was just having so much fun with everybody. And there was like, we would come back from challenges, and the whole time during the challenge, I'd be like looking for someone that wasn't pulling their weight, because typically like that's a sure sign of like someone that needs to go. And there really wasn't much of that. And there really wasn't much of like people not pulling their weight around camp. And I personally didn't see it. I also like sometimes I just get tunnel vision, and I was really, Barry and I were like moving some really heavy shit for quite some time at one point. So I know at one point someone had mentioned that Charles wasn't really doing much around like camp life. And I think that was also like a deciding factor for him. Not to say that he wasn't doing anything, but just probably not pulling as much as everybody else. And I think it's so funny how like just the tiniest thing and just one person saying one thing, that's it.
I think that was the main reason he got targeted, is because we were doing all the work. It was like us, Tammy, Nick, Zach, and we were doing, like, I didn't really know what y'all were doing, but I was like, I'm just going to work because I don't see this vision. And then you guys put together this like insane fortress for us. But Charles was just chilling there, and Tammy, I think, pointed it out, and I was like gung ho for Tammy first, but then I think it was Zach came over and he was like, Charles is just talking Big Brother and Survivor references and all this and that. And then at that point I was like, I like Charles, and I preferred him to stay, but I wasn't going to put my foot down on something like that early on. I was just going to ride the wave either way.
For sure.
That was my vantage point for that first one. And it felt bad, although I watched most of the confessionals back, and Nick's was like, Nick has amazing confessionals. You all should watch them. He like savagely was like, I don't know. You chime in, Nick, on your interactions with Charles.
Well, so I actually went to Charles and I made an alliance with him, and I was like, hey, I really want to work with you and stuff. And but at that point in the game, I was like, Barry was my number one from the very beginning. And I also had something going with Zach, and I also had something going with Robert. So I kind of had like a lot of little things coming together. And then so Doodles also thought I was his number one. So I kind of had like a lot of two like duos happening. So I really didn't want to like come off too strong like very early on. I don't know how good of a job I did with that, but I think it was actually Zach who came up to me and he's like, hey, you know, Charles keeps talking like game and strategy and stuff. And like, I was like, yeah, you know what? He's going to be a threat later and he's not helping out now. So sorry, Charles, you got to go. And that was kind of it for Charles.
Mob boss style.
Yeah.
You're dead.
So who was leading that tribe?
I felt like it was me, Nick, and Zach that were the ultimate decision. I felt like me and Zach were in the best spots of anyone, but Nick was the one. I viewed Nick as the leader in the fact that, like when Charles went home, for example, I just didn't talk to Charles much, and I was just like, "Yep, it's Tammy. I'm not gonna say much more than that." But I think Nick had like more conversations with him than that.
Yeah. I had a really long talk with Charles and I like I was like, you're totally safe with me. You're not going home. Like I've got your back. I really want to play with you. And we just sent him home. And then like he was like getting up to get his torch and he leaned over. I think he was like, screw you. I was like, yeah. I mean, it's all good now for the game, but yeah.
Yeah, no, he was really upset. Like I remember like getting back to I forget what we called it, but when you're voted out and we knew we were coming back, I walked back and he was like chilling on his hammock and doing his crossword. And I walked back and he's like, no way. And me and him got talking and like we were playing phase 10 for quite some time and we were just being very bitter people.
I actually think that was like my hardest vote out. I really did have like a hard time with that. But I think like after that, I kind of like flipped the switch and I was like, okay, like it's game time, you know, like there's no more hurt feelings, like, or at least for me, like I was like, if I have to hurt feelings, you know, that's going to be part of it.
But the early ones,
you got really good at that later on. Line.
Yeah.
The early ones were the worst though, because like the people, they didn't have that much chance to actually play the game. And so it's like, at least if they go deeper, it's like, I mean, it still sucks, but it's like, okay, at least they had a good run or we're here for a couple days. Whereas especially Charles and like, you know, huge super fan, this and that. And then he volunteered to sit out the first challenge, which was like him, like he didn't want to, but he did for the sake of the team because he didn't think he'd do that great in it. And it was,
and no one else was really saying that they wanted to sit out.
No, well, I don't think any of us did, but it was like him taking one for the team rather than him like chickening out. And so it really sucked. And he traveled to be there, and I mean, just super nice guy, but like, you know, we liked everyone there, and then someone threw his name out, and
we ran with it.
Rock the boat, and I wasn't, you know, super tight with him, so it was like, just had to do it.
I have to.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna say like how like just different it was for like Pistaki because we never really went to. I think we went twice, the fake one too, or whatever. So like, you know, it's like we never had to really deal with any of that, but at the same time, like I think that could also hurt maybe like a player like me who like wasn't playing that aggressive and like really realizing like the strategy that needed to be involved. So like as much as I still was talking to people throughout those first few tribals that we didn't have to go to and challenges, it's like I never really focused on really solidifying something like really hard. So that kind of affects you too, though, if you don't go to those tribals. So yeah, sure, I made it to the merge and whatever in jury, but like I barely did that, right? Like, so it affects you in a different way, I feel like. So as much as you don't want to go to tribal, you got to play the game. And sometimes going to tribal early, you know, you got to start playing. And that's why, like, look how good like Nick and Barry did. And, you know, they made it so far because they had to play the game early on too. So just kind of different perspective there.
You almost get like a head start on the game by doing that. You know what I mean? Because I think like, I don't know, the first night of us, even just knowing like no one was going to really get voted out, it was like we really were just having, at least for me, I felt like we were just having like kumbaya. We're just trying to get to know each other. We were talking, hanging around the campfire. And then like completely went to that challenge with the A-frame, like completely confident. Like there wasn't really a light in my eye that thought that we were going to lose until we were doing that stupid freaking pillars. I have nightmares about those damn pillars. And like, I still don't know how they fit together, and it makes zero sense. But yeah, and then it jump starts the game for you, and it wakes you up, and you're like, oh my gosh, we're actually playing a game. And so, like you said, Norman, like then that whole tribe is already calculating and moving a lot faster than the other tribe, because the other tribe has that like safety feeling that we kind of had coming off of that first win from the reward. So it's just a very interesting aspect of the game.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Because I mean, there are people like, I mean, probably everybody but me was actually like playing in the game early, you know, like even though we weren't losing, but I was like kind of like you said, like it was like, oh, kumbaya, like we're all getting to know each other and having fun. And sure, there were times, of course, right, so talk with everybody for the most part, but it affects the way you play the game long term for sure, not having to go to tribal at all.
So I do want to talk about while we're still in this phase of the game, Nick Robeson, your decision on the idol, that was so interesting, and I haven't really seen it where you find the real idol, you make a fake idol to find in front of other people and say, we're going to use this together. But then it's like when that gets played, they'll know it's not real. So what did you do? And tell us about it.
Well, yeah, I found the first idol. I was kind of just poking around and stuff. I know, like, I knew people were like looking at Tammy a lot because she was like searching, but I don't like Tammy didn't know what an idol was. So like
I thought she was faking it. I really didn't think someone came out here and didn't know.
I thought it was so funny how everyone was like terrified of Tammy. I'm like, this woman's like blatantly going by herself, not being discreet at all, and is like coming back with these janky mushrooms. That well, like, we're all gonna get medevacs if we.
She put them in the pot, and I was like, nope, we need to sterilize that shit.
Yeah. And like right off the bat, she's like yelling everybody to do this and that, and not really like. I don't think a lot of us. She grew on most of us, I think, on day 2, because day 1, I think she just was like, I don't know, but it made me. I thought that was so funny how everyone was like terrified Tammy had an idol, or at least something.
Well, I remember I like really tried to. I like don't know. I really kind of didn't think she knew like about the game, so I kept saying like, hey, look, there she goes looking for idols. Yeah. And people like kept looking at her, and then like that's when I kind of found mine. And what ended up happening was the bag wouldn't fit in my pocket. It was like bulging way too much. So like I went and like hid the bag kind of like by where our toilet was, and then I like ran off. And it like we waited a long time, and it was like right before the merge, and Zach Kruger was like, we need to like find that idol. And I was like, totally. And someone said like, hey, did anyone check over by the toilet? And I was like, they're for sure going to find like my bag. And it was like much bigger than the coin bags too. And I had like kind of just been like scavenging like the whole game. So I kept like a little coin bag, and I put like one of my bracelets, like of the fake idol, the first fake idol. And I was like, look guys, I found it over here. And the whole tribe comes running, and we're like, this is for us, you know, we'll use this together. So my whole tribe thinks that's the real idol. That's the first fake. And then when we're sitting by the fire, we make the second fake. So we had 2 fakes in the real idol, and then the Half Moon tribe thought we had just 1 fake idol. So I just kind of had like a bunch of tools I could use at my disposal, and it ended up working really well. So
did they know about the real idol?
Only Barry did, and that was like right before we went into the merge vote with Zach.
Okay.
Clever.
Yeah, because I was like, I guess it's a good way to get them to not look for it. But I'm like, if that like idol for the tribe gets played, they're gonna know you were just bullshitting them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that was like part of it too. But like Barry knew about it, so like I knew Barry and I were gonna be tight no matter what. And then Doodles, I think he was just like relieved that it wasn't one of us. So he was like cool, like we're good. So it ended up, it was really dangerous, it was really risky, but it ended up working out well.
I like you telling me that you had that second fake. It wasn't like, it didn't make me doubt you any less or anything. I was just like, oh, like good on him. He's being resourceful, and I'm glad that he's wanting to work with me. So I viewed it as like, I mean, well, obviously him telling me maybe bond with him, but the whole concept of it didn't make me trust him less, because it was him gaming and being creative versus like, I don't know, trying to oust one of us or something like that.
I have a comment to pull up from Lydia. Nick got the best swap. Why do you think she's saying that, Nick?
Yeah, going into the swap, I had Barry and Doodles, who were like two of my closest. You know, we had the four, Barry, Doodles, and then Zach. So I had like two of my closest guys, and we were going into something that kind of seemed a little fractured. I wasn't sure like where the fractures were right away, but I felt like we could kind of maybe have an angle with Lydia. We had an angle with Bergen, and we had an angle with Norm. And I remember Barry, Doodles, and I all talking, and we each kind of like picked a person to go talk to and like try and get close with. So I know Doodles and Lydia got really close. Bergen, Barry, and I got pretty tight. And then Norm, we were pretty good too, I think. So we kind of were able to like find some cracks, I think, but like we also didn't have to go to tribal, thankfully. But yeah, I was with like two of my closest people, so that was really nice.
Yeah, Nick, you did. I remember you talking to me in Bergen one time, like whatever, moments after the swap, and we were like walking or whatever, and you were like playing it up, saying you were like, I forgot, what was it again? Like you lied.
So
obviously,
I'm on the bottom. I'm like,
yeah, you were like,
I
I was like, oh god, we got him. I was like, me, Bergen, we'll grab Nick. Like I was like super excited. I was like pretty naive about it, obviously. I believe you did a good job. Like, I literally was like, oh, he's 100% serious. Like I really thought that was like true. But again, luckily we never even had to go to tribal to deal with. I always wonder what would have happened. I think Bergen probably would have flipped and voted me out, is my guess. But
Bergen said he would have flipped.
Yeah, okay, that's nice. Yeah,
that was my final jury.
Like Bergen probably would have flipped on me, but
this is why he had to throw the challenge. This is why Zach. This is why we talked about it over there. You know, we needed to keep the Pistachio 6.
Yeah, that would have been great. Yeah. Oh my God.
Did you guys throw the first challenge that we did at the split?
Absolutely not.
Oh.
Okay.
No, we would have loved to.
Half mooners, if you want something that'll make you feel good, watch the first challenge, because they do so bad, and it's the only time the whole time that they like make any mess ups in challenges. But it's like comically bad, because they don't know each other at all, and it's like really awkward, and they're kind of
we bombed that table maze so hard. We sucked so bad at that. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
we did. Crushed the skis.
Y'all crushed
good job, man.
Yeah.
I think I probably overestimated myself on the skis, not realizing that I'm going up with Zach Longlegs over here. There was a point where I couldn't keep my legs together because he was like moving my legs farther than they could reach.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh.
We did look over and we were like, oh, they put people that are all different heights. Like that was
we were like singular raising the bar. It was, I don't know.
That's kind of the reason we chose. Like, I think that everybody volunteered to do the skis part, and then we were so bad at that maze. That's really
I remember like making excuses why we lost. Like, I was like, oh, our ball couldn't go in there, but I bet theirs could. That like fake one. Like I was like, I bet theirs is wide enough. I was like, I bet they jumped the ball. I was like, production probably wasn't watching them. I made up like every excuse possible to like lessen how bad we did. Like,
it was really just that we were terrible at that.
So,
we were.
I do have to say, those table mazes, you guys like first of all exceeded expectations. Half Moon like blew through that table maze way faster than we did in our testing. But also I loved the moment because we made 2 entrances to get to the middle, but one was a fake, and it was like just small enough or just too small. And both of you went that way. You're like, well, we have to try it. I think it was like Angela. She's like, well, we have to try it. Like, we have to see. And like just as production, I went over to Uncle Mike. I was like, they're going in the fake entrance. So it's like cool to see something that you build like come to life like that.
Yeah.
I feel like everything went so smoothly that you guys built, Nikki. It was like
incredible.
Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was that clause about don't break any of the stuff, and none of it, we weren't really able to break any of it.
Yeah.
Except for
It
those
was
sticks
there.
in the final 3 challenge. Those were I was breaking those with my teeth. But
Even Jack Horowitz, like I had nothing to compare that to, and watching your most recent one on Instagram and comparing it, I was like, wow, our production crew went all out.
All out.
Definitely.
Yes, we wanted that feeling. We really did. I've played live reality games before, so and I was the early boot in my surviving real foot experience. So yeah, so I wanted to do like a couple things. Like one, have awesome challenges and pay attention to detail. So like make sure everything is painted and everything has a design. And then and go bigger. If we're gonna do something, I want to go larger in scale, larger in just the material that we used. And then second, I wanted the experience for everybody, including the early boots, to be a positive one. And from the feedback that I've gotten, I think that we accomplished that. The battle back, it was thrown in last minute, and I will say, like, that's one of the things that we did really well is if we did a change or we had a scramble or a pivot, we would not really make it obvious to you guys. But I think adding that battle back, that's something that we're bringing back every year, so it will be a Survive staple, a Survive classic. But yeah, that was really needed.
For sure. I didn't even think it was an option. Like we were all like speculating at camp on that first night, and I was like, they'll throw a twist, but there's no way there's going to be a battle back. There's just not enough time. And then I found out the hard way, and it was just such a happy surprise. And it really added a lot of value to the game because it gave the people who got out early a chance to fight,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, Nikki. I got a question. What was what would you guys have done if you did not do the battle back? Would there have been one more elimination and then the merge, or what would have happened?
No. So we actually wouldn't have merged at 10. We would have merged at 9.
Okay, that makes sense. Then there wouldn't have been a make the merge and not make the jury.
Yes, and the reason is because most of after conversations afterwards, we were originally going to start with 19 players, and then right before the game, it was okay. We have 17. So also 24 hours before, we had another challenge working, which would have been epic. I'm not going to explain it because it's definitely coming back. So we had one challenge that Uncle Mike was there, Sean was there. They were working on it late, and they're like, "Nikki, it's not going to happen," and I'm like, "That's okay. That's okay. We could scrap it. We can work it out." And then so we scrapped it. And then, hey, we have 17 people. We need to scrap a challenge anyways. So it worked out perfect until I added the battle back. So then now we're literally getting into merge, and we're like, oh my God. That's why there was only 9 buffs for merge in the bag, because it was supposed to be just 9 people on that tribe.
And Bergen thought he got eliminated.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
that was funny.
Bergen didn't get a buff.
That happened, right?
And it's just a combination of you're so busy when you're in production. Like I was so busy. All of production was so busy. And then and Eric actually told me, he's like, "Nikki, we have 9 in merge." I was like, no, we don't. Like it's or he's like, "We have 10." I was like, "No, it's 9. It's in the schedule." So we had to add a challenge, and that was pistachio ball, the bocce balls. So we had access to bocce balls. Someone on production had them, and so we just wrote some names on it, tested the challenge, and made bocce ball happen.
Yeah, get it, Ty.
I wanted to play that one so bad. I'm so angry.
That was such a total change up too. And maybe I'm wrong about this, but the plan was that we were going to vote out Lydia, and then she won immunity on that challenge.
Yeah.
I
wouldn't have been voting out Lydia.
She would have gone home, though.
At Final 7?
At Bocce Ball.
Yeah. Was that Final 7?
Yeah.
Y'all are going for each other. Angela and Lydia, y'all were both coming to me like, it's her.
And I got voted out instead because they wanted the Legacy Half Moon Tribe wanted me to vote out Nick, and I wouldn't because I thought at the time he was my number one. And the Legacy Half Moon Tribe wanted me to vote out Ty, and I wouldn't because at the time
Doodles.
I thought Ty was my number one. So each tribe wanted me to vote out my number one, and I tried to turn it on somebody else. And then Barry, love you.
I have a question. Go ahead, finish, Angela. But
well, I guess that was the end.
My question was, Nick, would you have actually voted for Barry at that vote if we hadn't flipped it on Angela?
I think it's hard to make like that call, especially like post game after, like having information after that vote.
Sure.
But I kind of figured Barry was going to be like gunning for me soon. So like, thankfully he didn't because we made it really far together. But like, I figured it would be in Barry's best interest to get rid of me sooner rather than later. And I kind of thought that was going to happen like in a vote or two. So honestly, if Angela had maybe shown me her idol, I would have maybe been more willing to do it. But also I don't want to like make that statement either because like I really don't know, like because game time it's a completely different like mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because at that point when Angela and you and I were talking, I knew that I was voting for Angela at that point already. And so and then afterward, when she went and talked to Barry, I was like, now is a chance for me to not lie to Nick and not burn this bridge right now. If he'll turn on Angela too. And I think at that point you were like, should we flip it on her? I'm like, yeah, okay, here we go.
I kind of wondered, kind of a question too. Good. Perfect timing, Bergen. Perfect timing. My question I'm just about to ask. Right. So when I went home, obviously, I think I was like one of the only, not one of, whatever, unanimous votes. So just kind of like, I've never officially, I guess, asked like who, like when that happened. Again, and obviously I don't care now, but I'm just interested, like what happened? Like, why was it just to like prove to like Nick, Barry, and Doodle that, you were going to work, or whoever you wanted to work on that side? Like, was it like, hey, let's just get Norman? I don't know, whoever wants to answer, Bergen, Ty, Angela. Like, I just kind of always like wondered like how that officially happened. And you guys just were like, yep, let's just do Norman. And whoever wants to, I've just been curious.
Yeah, for me, I knew that I wanted to work with Barry and Nick, but that was more because Bergen was closer with them after the swap.
Mm-hmm.
And I trusted Bergen a lot, and he was like, and I thought it in my best interest to keep two guys, those two around as shields, as people that I thought that people I was closer with would want to vote for before they'd want to vote for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't rock the boat enough to say, no, not Norman. Cause I saw the end game with you, Norman, from the get go. But I couldn't I didn't want those guys specifically to then try and convince Bergen, oh, why is he sticking up for Norman so much? He's closer with Norman than he is for you. And then it flip on me. So I couldn't, that was my reasoning.
Right. Like, do you know like who, again, not that I just curious.
The name, who brought it up?
Yeah. Like who was like, hey, let's just do Norman this round.
I'm pretty sure it was Half Moon. Yeah. It was like Doodles and yeah.
Oh, really?
To me it was.
Yeah, pretty much, Norm. We wanted to keep you around, but because you didn't vote with us, like at Merge, when I showed you, I was like, look, here's my idol. That was fake. But I was like, look, Norm, you can trust us. And I was like, vote for Ty. And we threw the votes at Zach, but I wanted to see if you had voted for Ty, I would have been like, okay, we can work with you now. And you didn't. So it was like, sorry, you got to go.
Yeah. All right. Just curious.
Let's stay on Norman for a second. So Norman, when the jury had your jury slumber party and you guys went out to the bars, you said when you were gambling at the Gambler, you heard people talking about Survive.
I did, yeah.
That is bizarre.
They didn't say anything that would have affected my vote. They're just like, oh, there's these people playing this game in the woods. I was like, what? I was like, people are talking about it. And then I was kind of low key waiting for someone to say something, but no one did. Like they're just like talking about like, whatever. It was funny.
I think that's so funny.
Yeah, it was cool.
I think so. Tammy was sharing the group a lot, and I think she shared to some like local McHenry groups, and which helped with getting the word out.
Right.
But yeah, our Facebook group like grew so much. Like we're at 1.1 thousand viewers in the Survive group, so it's like cool to see.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, here's our little banner. Check it out. That's how to find this group. Since we have 1,000 subscribers, we get our own URL now.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So Survive LRG is our little URL. Lots of acronyms here. Okay, so Bergen just joined us. Bergen, you were the winner.
I was the winner
of season 1. So how are you feeling after coming down from this experience?
Oh my gosh, that's a loaded question. I've talked to so many of you about it. Life has been interesting after, I've had so much money after winning this event that I just haven't really known what to do with it. Just investing it, really, trying to grow that fund. But
did you pay your taxes?
I prepaid the taxes.
Okay,
so,
good.
We don't want another Richard Hatch. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was such an incredible experience. I was on such a high, also just exhausted. I felt like I wasn't even myself at the after party or reunion. But then I had a 6-hour drive home with a lot of thinking behind that wheel. And then I got home and had to like readjust back into normal life, which I will be honest, it took me over a week. I think I'm still trying to readjust. So it was just an incredible experience. I got to connect with so many amazing people, outside and inside the game, just really getting to know people on a deeper level, and built those connections that I hope are going to last for a lifetime. And I think I've really made some really good friendships. So yeah, it's been amazing, but such a cool experience.
Awesome. So what do you think we went through like favorite moments and stuff. Let's talk about favorite challenge. So we mentioned the A-frames, but what was your favorite challenge?
My favorite challenge was definitely Final 3. That was like legit Survivor to me. So cool getting to build the pole to try and get the key, which clearly we all really sucked at.
It was painful.
Yeah. It was really embarrassing. And I literally multiple times just like sat in the grass and I was like, okay, what is going on? Why can we not figure this out? But I just breathed and finally got it done. And then to like get into fire making, that was amazing because we were expecting fire in Final 4. And we were all like, oh, we're going to lose to Nick 100%. Like we have no shot. And so to get to Final 3 and have the ability to actually make fire and then win fire by like 10, 15 seconds, but
Close.
It's still a win, was just absolutely amazing. It really made just my whole Survivor experience kind of come full circle. But also that A-frame challenge, amazing. That was so fun, staying up there with Nick basically all night. And yeah, and I loved all the water challenges. The water challenges were my absolute favorite, and I want to do only water challenges moving forward.
Even the treading water one, I think.
Bergen on alphabet soup. I like gave my stuff to Eric. I was like, I'm on standby. you were like literally like going to a ledge, preparing yourself, and like super jumping into the water. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I gotta go, guys. But just want to say, nice talking to y'all.
Bye, Norman.
Bye, Norman.
Bye, Norman.
See you soon, bud. I loved the slingshot one. The jumping in the water
That
with
was
the
my
slingshot.
favorite one.
That was probably Bergen's favorite water challenge for sure.
Yeah, honestly, it was. That one
Yeah,
wasn't that scary.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, we've done that challenge like at parties before, where you just like relay to the end, but then you do like flippy cup when you get to the end of the pool. So I'm like, well, we can't do flippy cup, like, so then we're like slingshots. But it's super fun and like just like racing, like jumping off, and everyone has to jump off, and yeah.
I think we did joke at one point about we wished Flip Cup was one of the challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe one year we'll do a beer survivor, like just like an informal thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If we're all-
Not
we're
beer
all there-
Olympics, beer survivor.
Beer survivor. Yeah.
I'm in.
Like just
And,
like a day-long game.
And they're like swimwear. Let's go.
Florida reunion if the hurricane doesn't wreck Angela's house.
Dude,
When it doesn't wreck the house. Let me rephrase that.
When?
it's coming.
Oh my gosh. That's scary.
I did, as far as challenges go, like as much like kind of like torture, I really did love the stump challenge. It was
Me
just
too.
like the challenge of it was just so, it was so mental, and that was like the great thing about it. Whereas like the challenge where they were standing on the ledge, which is also very much so endurance and mental, it also like there's a large pain factor. Not that there wasn't like pain standing on a log, but like after a prolonged period of time, there definitely, you know, I didn't feel parts of my body before, like coming off of that log. I didn't know how to walk. My hand was so gripped around the bucket. People were trying to give me a hug, and I was like, I can't let go. So, but like the camaraderie within that challenge, like we just kept telling each other, like, let's go. You can go further.
We
Push
got
it.
this.
Like
Yeah, I love
we
that.
didn't, I mean, subconsciously we wanted the other person to drop, of course, but like we wanted it to be because like we pushed each other to our limits. And there was actually a really funny moment there where CJ and I were nerding out hardcore just to like distract ourselves on like Pokemon, Dungeons and Dragons, like Lord of the Rings, like all of it, you name it. And Tammy couldn't stand it.
Tammy was like, I am out of here.
She was like, get Nikki, I'm stepping off. Does she need a video of me stepping off? Because I'm done.
How long did Tammy last?
Huh?
Like 30 minutes.
Yeah, she didn't last very long. As soon as we started talking about D&D and stuff, she's like, can we talk about something else? Let's talk about something normal like porn. And we were like, okay.
Normal, right? Normal. Got it.
Yeah, normal.
Love it.
Not to be a dick, but I was like the opposite. I was like, Bergen, please step down. I'm dying here.
That's what I mean. I mean, they were very different challenges in terms of like the pain endurance that you had to have as well as mental. The stump challenge was really like not even just who wanted it, more like, because we knew at a certain point, especially when it got to CJ and I, we were like, we know that whoever loses, it's not going to be because they were too weak or they couldn't do it anymore. It was just going to be a mix-up because we had been like, there was a time where I was holding the pole and the bucket and I started closing my eyes and feeling myself like falling asleep. I was so freaking tired.
Yeah, even mine, like my mistake was so, I don't know if she said the rules wrong, I heard wrong. I mean, I didn't argue. I just got down. I told her I lost and I lost, you know, what can you do? But I don't know if I was just so tired or so in the zone that I misheard the rules, but I did what I did on purpose, knowing it was going to get me eliminated from the challenge, or else I wouldn't have done it.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, you were trying to, because your sleeve kept coming over your hand, so you're trying to like fix your sleeve because obviously one hand's on the pole, you can't fix it with the other hand, and then it kind of just like slipped down, and you thought, oh,
so you have
fine.
it like I was holding it, you know, in our palms, and I slid it to the wrist so that way I could move. And then as I was putting it back, Eric was like, let me ask her if that's okay, because I don't know if you can technically take it out your hand. And then Nikki was like, nope.
So that's like another thing that's hard hosting, and something that I definitely learned in season 1 is getting out on a technicality. So there were a few, and I told everyone on production, I'm like, there is going to be decisions that are going to be difficult to make and they will be controversial, but just leave that to me so that no one else has to go through that or like think they made a bad call. I think what I've learned and what I'm going to do moving forward is install either in the challenge and before the challenge starts, say, hey, you're going to get one warning if you break a rule. And then on this, one warning. And then the second time you do it, then you're out of the challenge.
Yeah.
Like Nick had a lot, Doodles Nick had a lot of technicalities, like the buoy challenge. He touches the rope. And then when he's holding the disc with the ball and his foot touches the grass, like that's technicalities. And Charles and CJ in that 8-hour challenge, like, I mean, the honesty and the integrity of that challenge was just insane. And for Charles to say, hey, I took my foot off the stump.
No one even caught him.
No one caught
it. Did it.
I was like, wait, you did what? And he goes, yeah, no, my foot came off. I started losing like circulation. And whereas like Tammy was sitting on the ground at one point and then hands on the stump, and she was like trying any which way. She was leaning up against the pole. Like she was really trying everything. So I think like to that rule of like, you can push the boundary once, and then after that it's like, okay, that's right. What the rules were. They were what they were. Let's have it at that.
Yeah. On some of the challenges, like I think we like say, if it's like there's no mess ups, like you need to pay attention or whatever, but announce that before. Yeah.
Didn't Bergen, did anyone notice your mess up at Final 5? Or did you just self?
So yeah, I don't really know. I would have to watch it back, but essentially I was just trying to distract Nick as much as possible and hopefully make him lose concentration. And one of the production members was snoring in the back corner, and I started to laugh, and I lost focus. And as I was like moving or shifting my left arm, I touched the pole, and I was like, oh my God, I just touched the pole. And I don't know if anyone saw it, but I said it. And so I ended up just stepping down because obviously, but I was like solid up until that point. And then it was like seconds after that when Nick fell. And so I was like, gosh, if I could have just stayed up there a little bit longer, I would have loved to see if, Nick would have stayed up there for, a couple hours more, so.
Yep.
Lost focus.
Yes, definitely.
It happens for the best.
Definitely things have been learned.
But even with that, the thing is, at that Final 5 challenge, the only thing I didn't want to happen is for Nick to win. Because I thought that Barry would have flipped on you, but I don't even think he would have anyway. So I don't think it would have mattered.
I don't either. It was
Barry and Justin.
The problem with Nick is like honestly, Ty, you were the person I was most scared of in the game, and you kept lasting longer and longer. And I was like, the longer Ty I need Nick still. And if I thought if I went to the end with Ty, I'd maybe get a couple votes, but I'm not going to beat Ty. And our games were so similar that I wouldn't, in a lot of ways, that I didn't think that I was like, okay, he's played a similar game, but has more of his people on the jury, and he's a better speaker than I am. And and I haven't even seen a lot of his game, but it's not going to be an easy battle so I wanted, ultimately I wanted Justin at the end, but then you guys didn't allow that to happen. And then, that would have been, that round would have been tough at Final 5. I mean, Final 4, it was kind of a similar predicament because it seemed like the obvious choice was to take out Nick, but with the Final 2, it's like, okay, Nick's going to take me to the end over these other guys will. Ty's not going to take me to the end. If I am the one who beats Nick and then votes him out, I don't think Bergen's going to take me to the end in that situation. So it was like I could either go for it and then I have to win Final 3 or else I'm not getting there, or I at least give myself a shot and roll the dice and see what happens at that point.
For anyone watching who does not know what we're talking about,
love it.
This is the challenge. This was Nick. This is Final 5. They had to stand on these as long as they could. Here's Bergen. Got Barry. And Ty, that serious face.
Locked in. Let's go.
And there's Justin. And this is after Justin fell, I believe. No, it wasn't.
And he went back up.
He went back up because he's
Crazy
so
person.
nice and just wanted to be in pain with you guys.
Classic Justin.
Oh.
Classic Justin.
Hey guys, I gotta run to volleyball playoffs, but it was so great to hop in here and see you all.
Hey.
Bye, Moneybags.
Nice chatting.
Bye, Bergen.
Bye, winner.
Yo, I have something interesting to say. So Barry, as you were talking, it made me think about Final Four and how, at least from my perspective, there was nobody. Like I was just thinking, okay, who in Final Four did you have the best chance of winning against? And I was thinking that was Bergen, and that was the case, and you lost. So realistically, like I don't think you would have beat Ty. Nobody was going to beat Nick. That's a question for later. I don't know how you guys let him get that far in the game, but at Final Four, there was no way you were going to win. Do you agree with that, or do you think you had a shot?
I think I had a shot. I mean, it depends on the circumstance. I mean, I came one vote from Bergen. I think in terms of, I mean, I don't know how it would have gone against Ty. I mean, honestly, Final Tribal, I think a lot of votes, what people underestimate is in these games, Final Tribal determines a lot of votes. Whereas on the real show, I don't know if that's the case as much. But with this one, Final Tribal went quick. Like we had the opening statement. I think I only got asked like 2 real questions. I think Angela asked me a question, but it wasn't like a hard one where I was grilled. Ty asked me a good one. Doodles asked me a good one. But then no one, I don't think anyone else, like Lydia didn't really ask one. Norm didn't really ask one. I don't know. I mean, when I got to Final Four, I felt like I was an underdog, but I felt like, you know, it comes down to what the jury's going to respect, because I felt like I still had played a really strong game in my own right, even if it wasn't as flashy. And if I could articulate that, maybe I could swing some votes and see what happens. And I mean, based on how it's come out, I probably would have lost to any of them, but I don't think I would have got swept by any of them. Maybe Nick, but even against Nick, it's like I think I probably would have got Lydia's vote over him. And then with Justin's, it'd be kind of a toss up, but again, it all comes down to like who you're actually talking with, or like how they pitch their case and how the questions are and how I pitch my case. So like, I was hoping at Final Tribal that I would be able to like pitch it a little bit more, or just get asked a little bit more questions about it. But yeah, that's my take on it.
I don't think you had a bad Final Tribal at all. I mean, it was impressive, but did it have mic drop moments?
No, and I don't think it wasn't bad, but I don't think it like in terms of the questions, there was nothing there was a little bit that allowed me to articulate what I was doing, but it wasn't as much as I had wished it was. Cause I mean, like from my vantage point, I was in like Final 2s and Final 3s with almost everyone from pre-jury or from jury onward. And then, you know, and just navigating different ways and different situations and able to put the target on someone else and just like really, like I really mapped out my game, I thought really well. And I don't know if that came across.
Yeah. So Barry, one thing I wish I had asked you a different question at Final Tribal, and you kind of answered it just a second ago. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Why you didn't flip on Nick at Final Four? Like why you didn't, like, this is my move, I'm flipping on Nick. Yeah. And when you just said a minute ago, I was like, when you were like, I don't think Bergen would have taken me because that's a big move. That's like a put a stamp on it move that maybe you're too big of a threat after that. So I kind of wish I had asked that question to you at the Final Tribal.
That's such a good point.
Yeah. If it was Final Four, if it was a Final 3, hell yeah, I would take out Nick in that situation.
Yeah.
That one.
I probably still would have given you my vote.
Well, and I thought, I figured you would in that situation, because it's like when you get voted out that late in the game, it's like, it's a total respect move.
Game respects game.
Yeah. It's not like, I'm voting you out because I don't like you. It's because you're going to kick my ass and I want a shot to win. And I view you as the best player here. So, or the best player, best chance of winning here. So
same reason I gave Bergen my vote, right?
Yeah.
Asshole.
One of the questions that tribal that I thought was like, and it was to Barry that I was most curious about, I think, was when, and I don't remember your exact words, Nick, but you were asking him about like, what move did you make that I didn't know about or something along those lines. And I was just curious, like what you were kind of fishing for, or like if you had already known the answer and you were just saying a question to make a statement.
Honestly, I was pretty sure I was going to give my vote to Barry anyways. So like, I kind of just wanted to have like a little fun with it. You know, like Barry and I had been like tight from the very beginning. So I was like, all right, like let's make him think like maybe I won't give him my vote. And, you know, so, but also like I was kind of curious, like, was there other things happening that maybe I didn't know about? Because
well, you asked, when have you lied to me?
When have you lied to me?
Right.
It wasn't a move. It was like, when have you lied to me? So I was
and it was honestly just to kind of like, maybe, you know, like throw a curveball at you. Maybe now I could have like given you a softball and you could have maybe made a better answer, but I think that was just like you and me. I just kind of wanted to mess with you a little bit, like as a friend. So
I know I was like, I think you were the first person I went up to after, and I was like, what are you talking about? And then he comes over and whispers to me like, oh, I'm just fucking with you. I voted for you.
I'm not supposed to tell people that.
No, Nick, bad.
he was the only one, but yeah, I thought that one confused. I was confused because I was, I didn't lie to you at all throughout the game. As far as
I don't think the jury knew he was going to do that either. So I was just kind of like smiling. I was like, I think he's just messing with him. That's pretty wild.
The jury was interesting though, because I thought like Doodles, I thought he was going to go Bergen going into it. I wasn't like, we got along well and we worked well together, but we weren't super bonded. But then I felt like I was an underdog going into it. But then when the jury questions came and Angela of all people was like I targeted Barry because like he's the most social player, yada, yada. I was like, holy shit, I think I was going to get her vote, but maybe I have a shot at this. And then Lydia's, I thought I had a real shot because she came up to me at one point in the game and was like, you're playing the middle ground so well right now. And that's like what I'm trying to do. And I was like, oh shit, like game, respect, game, and that. And she seemed so mad at Bergen too.
The back turn at that one of those tribals, I was like,
there was one tribal when Angela gave the meanest death glare I've ever seen give before directly at Bergen. So at that point, after the tribal, I was like, oh shit, maybe I could like I knew I had a shot, but I was like, I think I at that point I actually thought like, oh, I might have this at this point, and then came up a vote short. But next game I'll get. I keep
for sure
going up, so just got.
I intentionally did that because I wanted you guys to get a little Bergen specifically get worried about who he had on the jury.
It worked, by the way, because we like. Oh, I look away. And I look back and you're
yeah. Maybe you look like this.
Yeah. I looked away and I looked back and you were like staring at me like this. And then I looked away and I looked back and you were still staring at me. And exactly like that right there. And I was like, we messed up.
I blacked out in that particular moment. I was just like,
rage, saw red.
No, it was in the first stage of grief, which was denial.
But then I found out not until after I got voted out that you had the idol, so you were mad at yourself is what really was happening.
Mm-hmm. Very upset with myself.
I thought you were mad at me and Nick, and then you were staring at everyone. I was like, oh.
Well played, guys. Angry at myself.
Hey, it's the game.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Can we talk about like the beginning stages of the game where like game hasn't started, but you're all sitting around this table and like staring at each other and like sizing each other up, like
for sure.
What goes through your mind in a moment like that?
I just felt really awkward, like because I had gotten there a little early with some of the other people, and we were
earlier than expected, I will say.
Right, and so we were just kind of like chatting. Obviously, nothing game related, but just like chatting about like, it's really hot. What should I wear? Should I wear this shirt? Should I change into this shirt? Like just simple things, right? And yeah, there they are. And then all of a sudden we're told that we can't talk. And then I just felt very uncomfortable, and I was like, I was just like staring at people and then trying not to stare. So I was like looking at my water bottle, and I felt so uncomfortable. I started like making noises to myself, which I didn't realize. And Charles goes, "Yeah, you're really making some weird noises over there." I think I was, I don't know. These are so funny.
Those are awesome.
So cute. Okay,
I remember I was thinking the water bottle color had something to do with tribes or something.
Yeah, we were thinking that too.
I was sizing people up based on what they wore, because I was like, all right, if they're wearing cotton, they're like not knowing what they're getting themselves into, because like you shouldn't wear cotton. But I looked across directly at Nick, and I don't know if we made eye contact, but I was just like, I hope he's on my tribe, and that's what I want to use as a shield. That was my first instinct. And then I was next to Robert too, who was like, sitting there with nail polish on and kind of quirky, and I was like, okay, he seems cool. And then that was my only real initial instincts, though. I was just like, well, I know, and I saw Zach at the parking lot, and he just flashed his big pearly whites at me a lot, and I was like, okay, like we'll work together. That was my thought. And then I thought, I was like, okay, well, at Merge, at least we have like that little like connection, so to speak. And then it didn't come to fruition for us in game, but those are my initial instincts right off the bat.
So Barry, as one of the people who've played a game before, were you expecting to see someone that you knew? Because I know a lot of LRGs, it's hard to cast people, and people.
I was nervous that I would. Not really nervous, but I didn't want to know anybody. Like, it's so much better to go into something clean, because like whenever there is pre-existing connections, it just messes with the game. It either gives you an unfair advantage or gives you like an unfair disadvantage. It allows you to have more, like, you can just play more freely when you don't know anybody. And so this was really cool that you were able to coordinate that, because the two other ones that I played, the first one I'd never done online or anything. I've never played an online one, period, but go into it. And then I found out afterwards, like, half the cast has played in these before and knows each other from different things. And then the second one I went in, actually knew another guy, not well, but we knew each other from the first game we played. But then we like immediately bonded and stayed together the entire game. But then I found out like he knew like 2 or 3 other people, and a lot of other people had weird connections, and like everyone at the final 5 had played a game before and knew somebody previously in the game. So I don't like that. It makes it better when you are on like an equal playing field in terms of not knowing anybody, because that's how you bond. Like, that's how you play the game, is, it should be organic. You just going there with a group of random people and make it work,
I was so naive. I had no idea that so many people were going to have played games like this before. I was like, what? I was like, all these, and then it was more than I expected. And then I found out Bergen was on the actual Amazing Race. And I was like, what the hell is going on?
For real.
Well, how many people played in these beforehand? It wasn't like, it was what, like 4 or 5 from the cast?
There was, maybe 4.
But ORGs too. A lot of people had some.
Yeah, I think it was a good mix of like newbies, ORGs, LRGs. But I going in, and even just like with the tribe that I was with for the time I was with them, I didn't think anyone had played before. Well.
Yeah. Well, so Travis. So, to my surprise, Travis and Doodles play a game together like weeks, like what, 2 weeks before Survive started. And I was like, oh my gosh, because that was not a connection I had before. They didn't know each other prior to, but Travis was Facebook friends with Zach Kruger. So I was like, they might know each other, but I don't know. We're gonna have Lydia.
Yeah. Oh, yay!
Fan favorite.
Yay!
Lydia.
Welcome.
Hello.
Just popping in to say hi for a few minutes.
Hey, Lydia.
Good to see you.
Yeah,
I've
we
been
miss
trying to
you.
watch off and on.
So we're talking about how there's some people who've played games before, but like not many connections. Like you played games before, didn't know anybody coming in.
Right.
But you like kind of knew of Travis, right?
Yeah. So actually, I was terrified when I walked in and saw Travis because I've never spoke to him or anything, but I literally like in the last game blindsided his best friend of like 20 plus years. So I'm like, ah.
How could you like not get along with Lydia though? Like
Right.
that's it. It's like people thought Lydia and I were like really close, like we've been friends for a while or whatever. I met her just as everyone else met her, you know, like, and even with like Doodles, you know, he was out pretty early in the previous game, and the way that, you know, they sequester people, I made it to 6th place, and we didn't really get to interact much. The reunion, they kind of had to leave early to get back home. So like literally I think the only thing I really said to Nick was like, oh man, jokingly, like I hope we get to like hang out and chat some more. And then we really didn't get much even in this game. That's kind of how it like plays out. It's really crazy that you get these different opportunities to interact with different people, and even when you are eliminated early or you swap or whatever, you just have people that you get really close with, and then you have people that, you know, you didn't get to talk to at all, but like everyone's still kind of this weird family, even though like some of them you don't really know at all, and some of them you know like really really intimately.
Right.
That's something for future games. Like if you see anybody from this cast, it's like it's automatic. Like you don't even make eye contact or anything. You just know like you got someone in your corner there.
Mm-hmm.
I did think it was interesting, and with the way that Doodles played. So one of the connections that I had was Doodles and not Barry Bergen. They played a game like years ago together, but I believe they both were in an All Stars cast, and it was Big Brother. So it's like, you know, in a house, and so anyways, they played a game together. Doodles knew Bergen was on Amazing Race, and Bergen knew that Doodles did challenges for Survivor. But they both, I feel like, just have so much respect for the game that they didn't say anything about that. Or did they?
No, I definitely heard him mind it.
I don't know.
Doodles has to go.
Dude, I don't know what they said to anybody else, but I remember after the merge, it must have been the morning of. So like immediately after Nick won that first immunity challenge in the pool, it was me, Bergen, and Ty talking. Ty, do you remember this?
Yeah, he told me at the campfire the night before.
Oh, okay. So he had already told Ty.
He was feeling it out with people, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he brings us up on the path at Original Half Moon and our merge tribe at that camp. We're like up on the path, and he basically just tells us right then and there everything about Doodles, and it was super surprising. But I don't know why he decided to tell us then, but
I already didn't trust Doodles because I knew he was not telling me everything. So I was like, that was just more to solidify it. But yeah, Bergen was selective with who he told. At least I know he told Lydia too. Not long after that.
Well, he
Doodles didn't say a word though.
He told Nick and Doodles told you, Lydia?
No, Bergen told me about Doodle.
Yeah.
I honestly was just like, okay, like I don't like it didn't affect like the way I looked at it, but I could see how it could affect the game.
It didn't affect me much either, but he was gunning for Doodles pretty hard because at Final 10 he really wanted Doodles, and like we kept pushing for, like we basically kept saying like, hey, would you be willing to take out one of your own? And he's like, well, no, that makes no sense. I'm just gonna like to go to a 5-5 tie and then piss people off. So you need to lose one of yours, and then we can work together. But then it put us in a really bad spot down 6-3. So we obviously didn't want to do that. But Doodles though, he was like, yeah, there was always a little distance with him because he wouldn't like. There was something where you could just tell he wasn't fully opening up, or like being fully honest, because like I found this out after. So he told the people he went to USC for college and was worried that if he'll find out he went to USC that they'd somehow know, like, I don't know, jump to figuring out he was on Survivor or like in these production things or whatnot. So he told people he went to UC San Diego. So I'm like, oh shit, you went to San Diego. Like, tell me about this, this, and this. He doesn't know shit about San Diego. And he just starts like giving really vague answers and like not wanting to converse at all about it. When in my head, I'm thinking like, oh, this should be something that like we bond over is like a strong thing right off the bat. And I didn't really think too much of it after, but didn't think that there was like, I guess a huge personal connection in that regard there. And then he told me at the reunion about it. And I was like, oh yeah, you picked the one random spot that someone would come from on the West Coast.
So speaking of hiding occupations, there were some more people in this call who did not divulge the full story. So CJ and Angela, they bonded over being teachers. But they both are not teachers.
Awesome.
So
That's awesome.
Angela, I got a question for you, because I feel like when you say what your occupation is, people would have no idea what that means. And I think it was just being in corporate that you were afraid that people would know, but I just don't think people would know how big of a badass you are if you would have just told their like what you do.
Probably. I mean, everything I said about, and I've talked to people afterwards about this, but everything I said about how I got to my career in the first place is true. And I said I was an art teacher. I do have my master's in art education. I did start at a telematics company a long time ago and went and got my master's in art and decided not to pursue that career. So I have the background in it, and I really am an artist. And maybe I got too in my head about it, but my job is to be a program manager. And I got nervous people are going to ask me what that means. And really, my job is to go into a company and meet all the stakeholders and understand what they're looking to get out of it, and then influence them on why my program is a good return on their investment, and get these stakeholders to go along with my plan for the benefit of all of us in the entire company, aka individuals in the whole tribe, and ultimately get to what my end goal is. And I just felt like if people started asking me questions about that, it might not come off as very trustworthy and way too strategic. So I just went with art teacher.
Yeah. So people who started out in a tribe with Angela, I know CJ, you believed it because you were also talking to her about teacher stuff. Did everybody else believe the art teacher story?
Yeah. I think the A and the Pistachio really sold it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believed everyone. I didn't know people were going to lie about their jobs. Zach lied too. Zach was not.
Kiara lied too.
I did. But from when I talked to you guys about at the after parties, like everyone thought that saying lifeguard was more of a like negative than if I just said that I'm director of operations. I just thought, like, because I am so passionate about my job, that if I had told everybody that I've been managing an amusement park since I was 19 and like talking about all the different like aspects that I've done in the amusement park industry, and I would start nerding out and saying how like I've built structures for Halloween and like all this other stuff, like I would go into the rabbit hole myself, and like even just talking with like team members and getting people to work with each other and creating teams and management staff that is complementary but also like they contrast each other. I thought it was just easier to say I'm a lifeguard and I just have fun and watch water all day. I don't know.
I think that was Kara. I've been in a leadership role for over a decade, and I just didn't think that was a good look for this game.
For sure.
But I have to say, like, I did buy the art teacher thing, but there was an intensity about Angela that was just like, you knew there was something else, because I'm big on like body language stuff, and the way that she would approach people and have a conversation with them, she's very conscious of like how she uses her eyes. She's very good at like direct eye contact. I want to read, is this person lying to me? Like there were a lot of things that I was like, wow, like she's a very intense art teacher, you know, like not that I couldn't buy it. There's all kinds of different art teachers out there for sure. But there was something else. I was like,
When she told us when we had the swap and she told us about the printing, and I was like, oh, that was like my favorite part of our class. And she was like, yeah. And then I think at the after party you were telling us, oh my gosh, when they brought out the paint for the flag, I was like, the fuck, they're gonna
You killed that A on Pasteki though. Like, you're the best A of all time. It's so nice.
And then Doodle showed up with the Half Moon Tribe, and everyone was like, I thought you were an art teacher, and I was like, I'm gonna kill this flag.
Yeah, that needs to be shown. I mean,
That
look
flag
at this
was
flag.
intense.
When I was blown away.
And
by
ours
this
looked like
flag.
it had doo-doo all over it because
I thought you guys drew a steak, like Pasteki.
Are you kidding me? It's
So
so good.
It's
And
so good.
he did it so fast. Like he
Yeah.
really didn't spend like a ton of time on it. Like obviously a fair amount of time, but like he whipped that shit together. So cool.
So impressive. I was also very impressed by the camps. So let's talk about camp life for a little bit because the property. So my dad's in construction. He puts his extra lumber, and some people will give him things like these big metal beams that you guys dug up and found. I first saw Pasteki's camp, so let's first get to Pasteki's decision on not using your straw for bedding, but using it as a chair. So tell me about that.
Angela threw the idea out there. And here's the thing. So there are like 5 people in our tribe that know way better how to build a shelter than they were letting on. Just no one wanted to say anything. I am not including myself in this because I've never done this before. But everybody would like, we all should have just like, someone should have just been like, let's do this the right way. And Angela did that. And I guess it got poo-pooed pretty quickly that we were like, no, we'll use it to.
I'm the one who shit on it. She instantly said, I said, no, dumb idea.
Yeah.
I was like, we should build this elevated and then use the haystacks and take them apart, put them as bedding, lay a tarp on top of it, and then use one of the tarps for the roof. And people were like, we kind of like our bedding. And I was like, that's cool.
At least you got to move to the camp that did use your idea when it rained and stuff though, right?
Dude, when we got there, I was like, oh, that's such a great idea.
Well, in my defense, I wanted to keep the chair, so.
Good job, Blaine, not saying anything though.
Yeah,
I didn't mind the situation.
Yeah, no, we don't want to interfere. But I was impressed with the bench though, because when you are when you don't have a place to sit, it does affect you. You come back from a challenge, you have nowhere to sit, nowhere to relax, and like the bench was very cute.
Probably
exactly. And you don't even spend that much time in bed compared to how much time you're spending awake.
Right.
We probably should have done one bench and used the other bale of hay for.
So I'm trying to find a bench pic. Oh, the cutest pic. One of the cutest pictures. I can't say the. Showing this right now. One of my favorite Pasteki pictures. Showing their first rice. But you can see this is the bench that they're sitting on that we're talking about, and it goes this way as well. So it's a big L around the fire, and they use their hay bales for this bench, which was cute.
What a great
All right. So Half Moon. So I first saw Pasteki and I was like, oh my gosh. When I saw those metal things, I was like, oh my gosh. I was dropping off supplies. And then I turn the corner and see Half Moon. And I'm like, oh my God. The fact that you guys had so many things and you made an elevated platform bed like you see in Survivor was mind-blowing. So talk about the construction of that camp, and I will show it right here.
I give credit to Kiara and Tammy for the vision and execution, because they were like telling us to move stuff, and I had no idea what this was all gonna come to, but just followed along, and it came out. And it was pretty freaking awesome by the end of it.
Yeah, we doubted it big time at the beginning, and it
was funny because like Tammy and I didn't like really talk about it. I mean, we really didn't talk much throughout the game except for like certain moments here and there when it counted. But I just like I had a vision of what I wanted it to look like. I did not want to be sleeping on the ground. I wanted to be elevated. I even talked to some people about like because when you look at it in the back area, it's so much more elevated, and if it did rain, it would have come down at us, and if we were on the ground, it would have not been fun. So I think it was Barry and I that we were like searching around for pallets, and then in that search, we found like these. It was like half like I think maybe drywall, or I don't know what it was, with like metal poking out of it, and we just started like picking it up and bringing it over, and we were just like going one after the other, and we were just moving everything. And we moved it to that one area, and I was just hoping, because I didn't want to be too much of like okay, you do this and you do that, but I wanted to move all the material that I knew would like create a good base, and then just hope somebody would roll with it. And Tammy picked that shit up. She was like, okay, and then she started telling us what to do and what to put where, and I was like, yes, great, we're on the same page, and we didn't even have to discuss it. And then she was up there like on the stack of logs that's over to the right hand side, like tying up like this rope for the tarp, and I even think someone was like, yo, she looks like Tomb Raider. It was a great moment.
I love that the so this is supposed to be the back or the headboard. Yeah. When I saw that, I was like, it looks like they're blocking it off from this way. It's an interesting strategy, but this is actually from our old family trampoline. So, glad she got her life again and got to see another use.
Yeah, they weren't very sturdy. Like if you bumped into them, I don't think they were gonna do much, but it was aesthetic.
Yeah. I was worried. I was like, this kind of looks like a junkyard on this camp, but like it definitely had a lot of supplies. Like look at in the background here. So it has this nice stamped concrete fire pit, but then like this trailers in the back with just a bunch of random stuff. And I was like, you know what? We're not cleaning it anymore. We're just saying use what you see. So I think it worked out.
I tried to see if I could like move the trailer and see if like we could just sleep on that. And I like took a couple tugs and I was like, meh, ain't moving. And it was so muddy over there. I was like, meh.
I checked that trailer multiple times for idols, convinced something was in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's it's just so good. And I will say the mud was surprising. Since there's so much tree cover, like it's pretty dense back there for it just being like, backyard woods. But there's not a lot of sunshine. So the mud doesn't dry. So that's why I was like, I gotta get hay. That's honestly was my first thought about the hay. I was like, they can use it to like cover up some of the muddy areas. And then use whatever they want. But I feel bad. I'm like throwing these people in a mud pit with like a mud pit junkyard with like nothing.
It's funny because we like both tribes combined barely used it. We used like half a bale of hay for our bedding, but we should have used a lot more. And then Pistaki didn't use it at all for theirs.
It's now in my front yard as my decoration for Halloween and fall.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I wanted to burn it so bad. And everyone looked at me like, no, like that's our bench.
The damn bench.
We were burning it. We were using it like to get the fire started for sure.
Yeah,
like hay and then toilet paper we were using.
Mm-hmm.
So another thing
if no one wants to listen to me about the hay, I'll just sleep in the hammock.
Oh my gosh. Can we talk, Nick, that first fire that we started, the amount of magnesium that you scraped off, I was getting nervous. It was like you scraped the whole side off, and I mean it worked. It got it going, and power to you. I wouldn't know how much magnesium to scrape off, but I was like, he's gonna scrape it all off. I can't say
the first time, and then there's nothing to worry about.
And no, 100%, because then you would probably have to scrape that much off anyway if it kept not lighting. But I was like, and then the frisbee actually. Did you grab the frisbee to like put everything in? I thought that was clever.
Yeah.
There's your fire.
Literally in the fire pit.
Yeah. It's so cute. And then we got Travis, firemaker extraordinaire, over here.
That metal pole didn't last very long.
Yeah. I was gonna say, did you put your pot on there?
I think that was the initial intention, and it wouldn't have held even someone's finger touching it, probably. Let alone a pot or box or whatever we were gonna put on it.
Speaking of which, Zach, how have your rice making skills come along?
Yeah, you know.
At one point, just so that the audience knows, at one point Zach goes, "So, how do we want to go about making this rice? Like, what do you do exactly?" And I was like, "You just boil water with the rice, and that's it."
He's like reading the whole instructions, like 2-to-1 ratio. And we're all looking at each other like, is he like pretending he doesn't know how to make rice, or like what?
Dude, I just wanted to make sure I was gonna get it right. You know, like I had to have that perfect ratio.
It was hilarious.
I was just trying to be a team player.
Oh, it's so cute.
Oh, how did you cook your garbanzo beans, Angela? Because there was definitely several methods that Tammy tried.
The first time we did it, everyone let me cook them in the pot first. And then by the second time, I was like, I'm just going to stick the whole can. Like I would empty half the can or a part of the can. We'd use the empty can and I'd stick it right in the fire. And it turns out the longer you leave them in there, the more overcooked they get and the more delicious they become. And I got to tell you, sometimes I have a craving to go outside and start a fire and a can of garbanzo beans.
Burn the shit out of a can of garbanzo beans and just really enjoy it.
Hell yes.
Oh my gosh.
Homemade hummus.
I miss it.
Those chickpeas.
Nice chopsticks, Travis.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
Thank you.
The iconic. So we have to ask everybody, is it a belly button or is it a butthole on the fox?
I'm pretty sure every single person said butthole.
Okay, it is officially butthole.
So.
Oh, funny.
Love that.
Well,
so
I gotta go. So
bye, Ty.
Till later.
Bye.
Bye.
Love you all.
Love you.
Love you.
So I want to just kind of wrap things up and start talking about what would you recommend for people interested in playing Survive? What would you recommend to them? Would you recommend that they apply to this game? Like, what is the best advice you could give someone thinking about playing?
Do it. It's
absolutely
the best experience ever.
For sure.
Yep.
It's
Just
you
go
have
for
to
it.
do it and you have to like go in ready to play. Do your homework.
Yeah.
And just do it and be yourself as best you can.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna piggyback off that. Like, don't try and be like a player you're not, or don't try and be like a personality you're not. Like, you have to lean into what you're good at, and that's gonna make like the best player. That's gonna get you the farthest, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But before we even get there, you have to apply. So apply, make a video, send that in. Nikki's going to watch it. And the only way you're going to get on the show is if you apply.
And anybody nervous about the like bugs and stuff, it's really not bad.
It's
like,
not.
We had mosquitoes and stuff. Everyone got a couple bites. That was about it. It's fine. You'll deal with the weather and it becomes a fun memory later. And it really wasn't even that miserable during it. So like I think a lot of us are probably indoor people, at least a lot of us would identify as more indoor than outdoor people in the cast. So, and we all did it. And I think everyone had a great time.
Mm-hmm.
You adapt really quickly, like to the outdoors.
To the point that you get home and wake up in the morning in your own bed, wishing you were still at camp.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well said.
Yeah. Yeah, so applications will be dropping sometime in the next few months. We're already starting to talk season 2, get some challenge ideas out there. How do we improve? What do we need to do? And who we're going to bring on board next year, which we need more females. We need more diversity. Like all these things would really enhance what we already have started in season 1. Season 1, the cast just came and they poured their heart and their soul into this game. I mean, there was so much authenticity and emotions played in this game, and just some of the best Survivor that I've also seen. I've learned so much from watching you guys play. Like, I am so impressed. And to have people who had no Survivor experience, like Angela, say yes to this. Literally no one believed she's never seen Survivor before saying yes to this. She did her homework though. She did watch a few seasons before she came to play, and you could really tell that it was fresh on her mind. She found a hidden immunity idol, got voted out with hidden immunity idol, like some of the legends in Survivor do. So yeah, but and then going from people who like Travis, who's like been around in like Survivor online gaming for like ever and has played so many live reality games. So just a really all skill levels are appreciated and accepted, and just apply. You never know what you get.
Do it now. Don't procrastinate.
Yep.
Yeah, well, you can't do it now yet because there's no application. When I get back from vacation, because I will be gone for 2 weeks, so I will not be doing Survivor stuff during those 2 weeks. But once I'm back, it's like game on. So I'm excited.
Where are you going?
Oh, I'm going to Paris and London.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm pretty excited.
Well deserved.
Yeah, thank you. Leaving on Saturday. Did you say recruit?
Yeah, you're recruiting internationally for next week.
Yeah, we're getting some more international players. We had Justin from Australia, and we had Charles from Canada. So who knows what we'll get next year? So we'll see.
Life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
Great way to end it. You never know. All right. Well, thank you all so much. And thank you to the Live Reality Game podcast for letting us take over and have fun on your show. We really appreciate you. And I appreciate all of this cast and these beautiful faces. And season 1 was a blast. And I cannot wait to make things happen in the future. So thank you all and have a good night.
Thanks, guys.
Night. Thank you.
Love you all. Love you, Nikki.
Love you all.